James David Vance, better known as J.D. Vance, was born on August 2, 1984, in Middletown, Ohio, a small town caught between the Rust Belt's economic decline and the deep cultural ties of Appalachia. His story, in many ways, is the classic American underdog tale, but with some surprising twists. It's the kind of gritty, real-life journey that feels part Hollywood movie, part American folklore. A mix of poverty, resilience, family chaos, and big dreams that somehow, against all odds, came true. Vance's childhood was tough, really tough. His mom, Bev Vance, struggled for years with drug addiction. J.D. often didn't know what to expect at home. She had multiple partners and marriages, which meant J.D. bounced between father figures like a pinball. His biological dad, Don Bowman, was mostly out of the picture during J.D.'s early years. At one point, things were so unstable that he was practically being raised by his grandparents, Mama and Papa, who were both loud, fierce, and deeply proud of their Appalachian roots. They had moved from the hills of eastern Kentucky to Ohio in search of factory jobs, like many Appalachian families in the mid-1900s. They were rough around the edges, but their love was steady. Mama, in particular, had a huge influence on J.D.'s values, toughness, and drive. Mama was no ordinary grandma. She smoked like a chimney, swore like a sailor, and kept a loaded gun in the house at all times. But she also pushed J.D. to study hard, avoid drugs, and believe he could be something. In many ways, she was the rock he clung to in a world full of chaos. Vance grew up surrounded by violence, poverty, and broken families. His neighborhood was full of kids like him, confused, angry, and often left to figure out life on their own. School wasn't always easy, and there were times when J.D. barely held it together. But thanks to Mama, a few kind teachers, and his own stubborn streak, he didn't give up. He later wrote, "I never thought I was smart, but I always thought I could outwork everyone else." And he did. After high school, J.D. joined the U.S. Marine Corps. He served in Iraq as a public affairs specialist. That experience changed him. It gave him structure, discipline, and confidence. He learned how to take responsibility, how to push through fear, and how to work as part of a team. The military also paid for his college through the GI Bill, something that would open doors he never thought were possible. Once back from Iraq, Vance enrolled at Ohio State University, where he studied political science and philosophy. He graduated in less than 2 years, summa cum laude, which basically means he crushed it academically. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. J.D. got into Yale Law School. For a kid from Middletown with a shaky past and no elite connections, Yale was like landing on another planet. At first, he didn't even know how to dress for an interview or what utensils to use at a formal dinner. But once again, he outworked everyone and earned the respect of his professors and peers. One of his mentors at Yale was Amy Chua, the well-known author of Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother. She encouraged him to write about his life story. That advice would prove life-changing. In 2016, J.D. published his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, a memoir of a family and culture in crisis. The book was raw, emotional, and brutally honest. He didn't sugarcoat anything. He talked about the pain of addiction, the confusion of growing up poor, and the cultural habits that sometimes held people back. The book struck a chord with millions. It became a #1 New York Times bestseller and was later turned into a Netflix film directed by Ron Howard. Suddenly everyone was talking about J.D. Vance. Some praised him for shedding light on forgotten Americans. Others criticized him for what they saw as blaming poor people for their own problems. Either way, he had started a national conversation, and his eloquence made people listen. Whether on TV, at a lecture, or in a debate, Vance spoke clearly and powerfully. He knew how to explain complex issues in a way that felt personal and real. His voice was measured, passionate, and often moving. After law school, Vance worked in venture capital. He joined Mithril Capital, a firm co-founded by billionaire tech investor Peter Thiel. Later, he launched his own firm, Narration Capital, which invested in Midwestern businesses and startups. Unlike many who chased success on the coasts, Vance stayed focused on rebuilding the heartland. He also stayed active in public debates, writing op-eds, giving speeches, and appearing on major news programs. He often spoke about how government policies ignored working-class Americans and how culture, not just economics, played a big role in poverty and addiction. By the time the 2020s rolled around, it was clear Vance wasn't just a commentator, he had the itch to lead. In 2021, he announced his run for the U.S. Senate in Ohio as a Republican. The campaign was rough at times. His critics said he was flip-flopping on Trump, and his past writings were picked apart. But Vance stayed in the race, adjusted his message, and connected with Ohio voters. He won the Republican primary and then defeated Democrat Tim Ryan in the general election in 2022. Just like that, J.D. Vance became a U.S. Senator, representing the very kind of people he'd grown up with. In the Senate, he focused on issues like border security, fentanyl, big tech, and protecting American manufacturing. He was tough on China, skeptical of endless wars, and vocal about the need for stronger families and values. His speeches in the Senate stood out, not just for the content, but for how well he delivered them. His style was crisp, forceful, and always straight to the point. In the 2024 election season, Vance became a rising star in conservative politics. His background made him relatable to working-class Americans. His military service and legal smarts gave him credibility, and his ability to speak plainly, without sounding fake or rehearsed, made people trust him. That's when Donald Trump, running again in 2024, picked J.D. Vance as his running mate. It was a bold choice. Vance was younger, from the Midwest, and had a story that many voters found inspiring. He wasn't born into politics. He'd clawed his way into it. In November 2024, the Trump-Vance ticket won the election. On January 20, 2025, J.D. Vance became the 49th Vice President of the United States. Interesting facts about J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance was born as James Donald Bowman, but legally changed his last name to Vance as a teenager to honor his mother's side and distance himself from his biological father. He didn't grow up religious but became a committed Christian later in life, seeing faith as a source of stability and direction. His wife, Usha Vance, is of Indian descent and also a Yale law graduate who clerked for Chief Justice John Roberts. Together, they have 3 children. He named his investment firm Narration Capital after a magical ring from the Lord of the Rings, symbolizing hope and fire, showing his love for fantasy literature. He's left-handed, which puts him in the same group as a few other U.S. vice presidents, including Joe Biden. He has a tattoo on his arm honoring his Marine Corps service, something personal and not widely publicized. J.D. Vance's life is a true American story. From a chaotic home in Middletown, Ohio, to one of the most powerful offices in the world. Along the way, he served his country, went to elite schools, wrote a best-selling book, built businesses, and became a national leader. What makes him unique isn't just what he's done, but where he came from and how he tells his story. He speaks with conviction and clarity, making complex issues sound human and relatable. His eloquence isn't fancy. It's real, raw, and thoughtful. That's why people listen. Love him or hate him, one thing's clear. J.D. Vance has defied the odds. From a broken home in Appalachia to the Vice Presidency, his life story reads like a novel. But it's all real. Thank you for watching. I wish you all the best. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel 10 minutes a day.